This week on To the Contrary.
First, a viral photo of Pelosi versus Trump. Then, the next step for Me Too voters, and fairness and female transgender athletes.
Bay. Welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, Pelosi v. Trump. President Trump peppered House Speaker Nancy Pelosi with perhaps his worst insult so far against the most powerful woman in Congress.
He called her a third-rate politician and was so rude to her and other Democratic leaders, they walked out of a meeting about the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Syria. Trump then tweeted this picture of Pelosi chastising Trump, saying, "All roads lead to Putin." Trump called it Nervous Nancy's unhinged meltdown. Speaker Pelosi says it was actually the president who had a meltdown due to the bipartisan vote condemning Trump's Syria policy. And she said, quote, "We have to pray for his health." Pelosi changed her Twitter page to highlight the picture.
So Congresswoman Norton, as a close ally and friend of the most powerful woman in Congress, probably in politics in the United States, is Trump more insulting to her than he is to male leaders?
Well, he better not try it again. Not after Nancy's tweet of her literally standing up to him went viral.
I think President Trump is an equal opportunity offender when it comes to name calling and treating people badly. So I don't think he did anything differently to her.
I mean, Trump is a total sexist and everybody knows it, but in Pelosi, he's found someone who can take him on like no one else.
He's an equal opportunity combatant. He stands up no matter who's going after him, male, female, any race, any background. It's all about getting the right policy.
All right, but he never said about men that you can grab them by the genitals and they love it. Did he?
Well, that was something that is a completely different topic. And if the fact that Nancy Pelosi used that photo and the president used the photo, to me shows that they were actually using each other, which is really what the tape was getting at. The tape was using the fact that when you're a celebrity, women try to use you. And that's really what it's about. When it comes to politics, people, they have mutually assured either benefits or combatants, and that's how it works. So the fact that both of them used the photo, to me, shows they were both after something.
No, look, he hasn't tried to stand up to her. He has gone light on her up until now. Look, we are doing impeachment hearings.
Why do you think he's gone light on her?
That's it. He didn't know how to handle this woman, and therefore he has not been as viral on her as he has on men in the past. I think this reflects what is happening to him in our impeachment inquiry now. He's really lost it in a number of different ways. I mean, you saw that vote against his Syria policy where we were able to attract even most of the Republicans. So when her photo comes up like this, he finally has had it, and he tries something that he thinks will work, even on a woman, and it just falls flat, or she stands up on him. I don't know how you want to.
Well, I would disagree on the impeachment because Speaker Pelosi won't even take an actual vote to proceed on the impeachment. She's afraid because she knows if she has to get her Democratic members who are from more moderate
they're
districts.
in the middle of scheduling it now.
No, she said that she wouldn't. She's using the secret, behind closed doors committee process rather than taking it to the full floor, which will allow for more transparency.
That's not true. I just have to correct that. There does not need to be a vote on an inquiry. And there has to be a vote on impeachment, but not on an inquiry. Inquiry is an investigation. Now, she may be trying to shield really a tiny handful of Democrats from swing districts. But we've got the votes for the inquiry, and frankly, we've got the votes for impeachment.
Nancy Pelosi knows exactly what she's doing. Look, this woman knows how to operate and use power and wield power and build power like no one else in this country. And that is why Trump is so afraid of her. And so I
She's
think
a fundraising machine like the Democratic Party has never seen.
I literally woke up one day as this was unfolding with the Ukraine and thanked God that she is Speaker of the House right now. I don't know that there's anyone else who's better equipped to help us. We are in the middle of a constitutional crisis in the United States. Our democracy is under attack from an authoritarian dictator. It's going to take all of us coming together to get to the other side. She knows how to move this forward, and she's doing a great job.
Well, I must agree she's a master strategist. I think that's one thing I've come to really admire about her. But the only point I do disagree with, Erin, is that I don't think Trump is scared of anybody. And that's really, we should pay attention to that, because he ought to be scared of the people in his own administration. People like his acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, loose-lipped yesterday in front of the press corps and then issuing a walk-back statement 2 hours later, I think it was. So,
but why would he be afraid of his staff doing it if he does it all the time?
He's afraid they're going to be the ones who essentially at the end break him down. He knows that he has the power of the bully pulpit. Right?
Hasn't Giuliani broken him down and made him more vulnerable to this impeachment than anybody actually on his staff at the White House?
I think now Mick Mulvaney has topped Rudy Giuliani in that. This news cycle has us all fatigued because every week, every day, there's something that comes up. But yesterday, I think what we really saw is that Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, her hand is really going to be forced to push this vote onto the House floor faster than she expected to. And I think she's tried to do that to be clean and essentially try to make this seem like a very honest process. But at the end of the day, we have somebody that pulls pages from the dictator's playbook every day. I don't think he's a Republican. I don't think he's anything. I don't even think he's a human.
I just think that you said dictator.
He acts that way. There's proof.
I just don't think, when you actually look what he's doing.
Isn't it more like
deregulating
attempted dictator?
This isn't about his policies.
I mean, his policies are limiting the scope and intrusion of government into your life. He is protecting American citizens. He's protecting African-American workers. The fact that the DOJ under Barack Obama, the Civil Rights Commission, issued a report looking at illegal immigration and how it hurts African-American male workers in this country, and protecting American U.S. citizens, that is what a valid leader should be doing. A dictator would allow anyone to come in and not actually care for your own citizens.
So our democracy is better shape than that, than to allow anybody to just walk in and sort of say.
That's what Democrats want.
Democrats have always want that. Hey, I'm not a Democrat.
Elizabeth Warren endorsed decriminalizing illegal immigration. That's allowing anyone to walk into your open door.
And a lot of the Democrats, there are many Democrats who believe that it should not be criminalized.
Look, don't pull African Americans out of your hat for Trump. African Americans lead in opposing Trump. Be so great for us. I don't know why more of us aren't for him.
You can't get to the policies because his behavior is so abhorrent. As a mother now, I'm thinking to myself, he had to be bleeped at a rally last week. I mean, that's just absolutely insane to me that this man is not a leader. He's a sham of a human. He does a patch and go strategy every day based on what the cables are saying about him. All he wants is to be liked. He's like somebody I went to high school with. He's a narcissist. This is not what we should want in our leaders, and Republicans would do better to impeach him and start over.
Yeah, I mean, Carrie, I'm just going to say this personally. I think you and I disagree about every single issue, and you can do that after we get rid of this dictator. It's okay. And I think it's going to take all of us to get to the other side. We really need to stand up for the rule of law right now. This is not a conservative president. I agree wholeheartedly with Rina. This is just a dictator.
Do you think he's more erratic these days because he's petrified of the impeachment inquisition? I mean, it looks for all the world like they've got him. On violating the Constitution.
Here's what I think, Bonnie. I think the first rule of dealing with a sociopath, and I believe that he's a sociopath, among other things, is that you don't try to get into their psychology and explain it. Instead, what we need to do is focus on ourselves and on our democracy and how we take it back and how we make sure that we move forward so that our laws mean something in the United States.
And yet, when there's all this talk of emoluments, et cetera, he stages the G7 meeting at one of his properties, meaning he's enriching himself with that decision. Does anything get through to him?
Well, I think you've had presidents hosting world leaders at their estates in many occasions.
No. We're talking about at a hotel. It's one thing to host it at your house. You don't make any money off of that. It's quite another to base it at your commercial property where, yes, his company and his sons and eventually him personally make money off of that.
His policies are to, as I understand it, any profits are given back to the Treasury, just like his own salary. He doesn't take a salary. The media doesn't talk about this. Every quarter, he donates salary to the Treasury. And to the bigger point on the question of legitimacy and the impeachment, I would recommend Kimberly Strassel's book. She's a Wall Street Journal editorial writer. She looks at the major problems. If you want to talk about rule of law, Sally Yates, when she was the acting DOJ director, she defied Attorney General. I mean, she defied an order. I mean, you want to talk about the erosion of the rule of law? You want to talk about impeachment proceedings being held in secret in an unprecedented manner? Every single other prior impeachment proceeding was taken and proceeded in a manner that allowed for due process, that allowed for transparency.
I think there was a story out last week about him foregoing his $400,000 salary because he spent 287 times that amount of taxpayers' money on his personal security charged to the government. Go ahead.
Just absolutely sickening. And I think when you're having a debate on process, you've lost the argument. And ultimately, what we're faced with is a moral crisis for this country. And we need to, like I say, band together, get to the other side. It's going to take all
Could
of
I
us.
correct something once again? An impeachment inquiry is like law enforcement doing its own work. Then, of course, the other side can answer. So before there is an indictment brought, you don't have the right to say to the U.S. Attorney, let me see what you've got on me. So you should not say that we are violating what is required. We are not required to make the other side a part of the U.S. attorneys, that's who we are, investigation.
All right, let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Urbay or at To The Contrary. From viral photos to viral campaigns.
As the Me Too movement commemorates its second anniversary of going viral, the movement's founder, along with advocates from a variety of women's rights and justice groups, say it's time for the next step. They want to up the ante and push for legislative action and strong government policies. It's called Me Too Voter, an online campaign to pressure political leaders for real solutions addressing and preventing sexual violence and harassment. The leaders say when Me Too went viral and thousands of women came forward with sexual assault allegations, political leaders said they'd take action, but movement leaders say not enough has been done.
So Me Too Voter is both an acknowledgement that survivors are also constituents, they are voters, and it is a call to action for all of us to gear up and demand that our policymakers, our electeds, and anyone running for any office definitely tell us what their plans are to respond to the once-in-a-generation cultural moment we have had.
A new survey from the National Women's Law Center found 2/3 of voters agree lawmakers must do more. They say they'll use their collective power to hold political leaders and candidates accountable at the ballot box and in their overall leadership.
People are underestimating the power of survivors. We have seen what's possible when survivors come together in solidarity. They've managed to dramatically change culture in such a short period of time. In some states, they've been forced to actually improve their laws. 15 states have actually taken action to improve their laws since Me Too went viral. But it is far from enough. And the millions of people who've been carrying the burden of saying Me Too without seeing the right level of action deserve better.
So can you predict, and I know political predictions are worth what you pay for them, but because things change so quickly,
Right.
But do you think they'll be able to pull it off? Will they be able to turn the millions of women who went online and tweeted, Me Too, it happened to me, I was sexually assaulted, I was sexually harassed, into voters at the ballot box next year?
I think that remains yet to be seen because this movement was so unique in its own way, in that it really started as a movement meant to tear down these powerful men and circles of men, and really the elites who are really putting these younger women at risk of.
But didn't we get a preview in the 2018 elections that let the Democrats take the House back, that produced all kinds of new young women, women of color in the House, new Republicans, more new Democrats than Republicans, but additional Republicans as well.
And that's where I'm going to say something that's probably pretty unpopular, is that I don't see the connection fully. I'm all about people being driven to the ballot box. I think everybody needs to participate and take their right to vote very seriously. But again, the movement was about letting women feel like they could come out of the shadows, giving sort of these circles of power to women, putting the power back in women's hands. Does that mean women have to vote a certain way? Do they have to vote blue just because they feel like, the leaders of this movement? I don't think so. And so I don't think this movement should be connected to voting entirely. I think there are women out there who are sort of like, they're mutually exclusive.
I'm a little confused about what they want. Remember, Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act already covers sexual harassment. So what is this? This is Me Too. What's the other word they've added?
Me Too voters.
Me Too voters. And if you look into what they seem to be after, they seem to be after some kind, beyond remedy, some kind of benefits to these women who've gone through this. And they need to clarify what they want. They already have a remedy. When they speak of states that have done this, I think those states have tried to provide a remedy. They seem to want more than a remedy. They seem to want some help for these women. But their focus on voting is directly where they should be. It seems to me that would appeal to Democrats and Republicans. Because
oh, wait a second. Let's bring President Trump back into this discussion.
Wait a minute. That's different.
Because you don't think there's such, progressive women, let's face it, are completely outraged by this president. Progressive men as well, but particularly women. And Republican voters just vote all the time. They're more loyal to their party. Whereas Democrats, it seems to me, sometimes have to be dragged out of their caves to get to the polls.
And I think...
And there's hate there, there's anger. And there's a wish for retribution.
And if anything, I think this is a message to the Democrats who are running for president. They don't think, these Me Too women don't think that they've had enough to say about their issues. And guess what? They're right. Part of that is because of the way the television has put these, what do we call them? These
hashtags?
Oh no, these. We've been having these
town halls.
Why does it escape me? When all of them get together for these debates.
Right, debates, presidential debates.
The debates have not focused enough, and the women and men, and remember, 4 of these are women, have not brought up this issue. So I think they're speaking to both those of us who are Democrats, especially those running for president, and to Trump, and not to Trump alone.
Well, I'm going to agree with you that it is a bipartisan issue. Women's empowerment, wanting to prevent sexual harassment, I think that's something that would unite Republicans and Democrats together. I think that there is a broader cultural movement with Me Too, and for a conservative woman, sometimes it's problematic when people then try to make it a partisan issue. And it should really be, like, for example, with the Women's March that happened around Inauguration Day, that a lot of conservative women were not allowed, or they were told if you were pro-life, you weren't welcome to be part of this Me Too movement or this Me Too march, and it was exclusionary. And so I think if we're really going to get progress for women, we should really all be trying to empower women, and then we can have specific policy disagreements. We can have those debates.
And this one says Me Too voter, and it has no partisanship attached to it. So you've gotten what you want.
Talk about what they do want once they get power at the ballot box. Do they want things like mandatory pay disclosure by public corporations, so that women can know when they're being discriminated against?
Yeah, as a grassroots organizing person, movements are messy. So I'm not surprised that this is messy and we're saying, okay, well, what's it really for? I think that's something that the organizers are very intentionally galvanizing right now. But when we talk about specific policies, we're talking about things like mandatory arbitration clauses that people are forced to sign sign when they start with an employer, and there's no way that they can actually go and sue and get
Which
justice.
Wall Street has all over the place.
A huge issue and intimately interconnected with Me Too issues that arise, better sex ed, things of that nature.
All right, let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Urbay, at To the Contrary. From Me Too voters to transgender athletes.
Female transgender athletes must limit their testosterone levels to participate in track and field events. That, according to a new ruling from the sport's governing body. The International Association of Athletics Federations cut in half its testosterone limit for athletes wishing to compete in women's events, in part due to the new data. The data show testosterone significantly boosts women's athletic performance. These results come from some of the first trials ever undertaken to test this question. While it has long been assumed that testosterone had this effect, there was a surprising lack of scientific data on this point. Similar guidelines for women who are not transgender but show elevated levels of testosterone have already been disputed. Caster Semenya, an Olympic gold medal runner, is challenging a ruling that ordered her to take drugs to lower her testosterone levels. She missed the 2019 World Athletics Championships because her appeal is pending.
All right, Erin, so as a recent marathoner, do you think it's fair that they're trying to lower testosterones for women who want to compete as women?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair at all. And I think there's something really disgusting and disturbing about this idea that people need to take medicine or be chemically altered by an abstract body in order to compete in a sport. What's happened to, now I want to be very clear that the issue of transgender athletes is different from the issue of intersex athletes. But what unites them is that we have this incredible speculation upon bodies, and particularly on women's bodies, or people who are not cisgender men, people who are assigned male at birth. And the fact is, let's let people compete. I recently tried to run a half marathon. I tried to make my own jersey that said, "Let Caster Semenya run." I'm so horrified by what they've done to her. And I think in this case, it's just not fair. It's a non-existent problem. We're talking about less than 1% of the population is transgender. As a devoted runner who really works hard for my time, I'm not threatened by this at all.
Your thoughts?
I would disagree in terms of when it comes to competing for in sports, because sports, it's not just about testosterone, it's about other issues. It's about physically, the bone muscle structure, the bone mass, the actual lung capacity, the heart capacity for males who are born male, and even if they want to transition later on, it's physically different. So even if you're taking testosterone injections or not, you are physically superior to a person who's born female in terms of athletic performance. And we see this. We saw this. There's a case that's pending in Connecticut where a high school girl, she and two of her colleagues were born female, elite female athletes, and they had been champions before, but then two individuals who had been born male and wanted to transition to female, they knocked them out of the spots. And we've seen this over and over, and you could see it happening in theoretically in elite tennis, multiple other sports. I am all for respecting and using the pronouns that an individual wishes to use, but I do think that when it comes to Title IX and the victories that women have fought for to have any sort of recognition that women's sports should be equal under the law, this would ruin all that.
Well, the thought is always has been all things being equal. Now, this is a very new science. This is the first time we have known the effect of testosterone. More science needs to be done. At the moment, the whole notion of women competing against other women whose testosterone levels are at the levels of men bothers me. And I do think we need more science, but I also think we need to encourage girls to continue to go into sports and to believe that all things being equal is still the rule of the game.
I think it's about equality, and I completely understand about the people who don't feel threatened, and I think that's great that there are transgender folks that want to get out and just really feel like in every way of their life that they are with the sex that they identify as. And
what about, I know this is the first science
Sure.
to confirm it, but how can you not, if you didn't start hormone therapy until to become, let's say you're intersex, you're born intersex, which means you have genitals of both genders, and they made you a boy, but you grew up knowing that
felt like
they were a girl, you were a girl. Anyway, we're running out of time, but how can a girl, someone who's born a girl, possibly have the bone length, the height, the muscle mass that somebody who was born a boy?
And I
could
think that's
have?
where we have to be real and honest, and that equality is about looking at things like anatomy. And that's really where I believe we should keep it.
All right, that's it for this edition. Please follow me on Twitter. Visit our website, pbs.org/to the contrary. And whether you agree or think to the contrary, see you next week.
Don't forget Billie Jean King. Reading hot pigs in the back of the
Funding for To the Contrary provided by the Cornell Douglas Foundation, committed to encouraging stewardship of the environment, land conservation, watershed protection, and eliminating harmful chemicals. Additional funding provided by the Wallace Genetic Foundation, the Colcom Foundation, and the Charles A. Freoff Foundation. For a transcript or to see an online version of this episode of To the Contrary, please visit our PBS website at pbs.org/to the contrary.